Send it. Here we start.
Like we always do at this time. Push it to the limit. Walk along the razor's edge. Don't look down, just keep your head or you'll be finished. Open up the limit. Past the point of no return. Reach the top, but still you gotta learn how to keep it. Hit the wheel and double the stakes. Throttle wide open like a bat out of hell. You crash the gates. Going for the back of beyond. Nothing gonna stop you, there's nothing that's strong. So close now, you're nearly at the brink. So push it. Ooh, yeah.
Yo, let's go, everybody. Share the space. Happy Friday, y'all. We're going to push it to the limit.
Welcome to the limit. Take it maybe one step more. Our game's still playing, so you better win it. Push it to the limit. No one left to stand in your way. You might get careless, but you'll never be safe while you're still living. Welcome to the limit. Standing on the razor's edge. Don't look down, just keep your head or you'll be finished. Welcome to the limit. Push it to the limit. Push it to the limit.
All right, you guys
we
ready?
always do at this time.
Let's do it. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday, Bitcoiners. It's always morning in Bitcoin. Thank you for flying with us, y'all. Everybody share the space. This is Alex.Sats, your Spaces Captain speaking. As of this moment, the block height of the Bitcoin network is cruising in the 849,000 to 851,000 range. Welcome to another edition of CoinGeek Weekly Discussions, aka What's Up with the Blockchain Space. This is a live space we record here on X every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern with the goal of bringing you the most insightful dialogue and cutting-edge conversations. So we invite you to ride along, enjoy the next couple hours. But first, like I said, everyone hit that repost button on this bottom right. It's already in the nest. Let everybody know this is the place to be. Takes a second, and also you will be entered to win prizes Everyone who is live here and reposts the space within the first hour is eligible to win the 420 giveaway, where we will, at 4:20 p.m., pause to announce who is this week's winner. Today is June 28th. It's a beautiful day here in sunny South Florida, where I'm holding it down from. We've got our co-host with the most, Mr. Zach Wins, getting connected here. He's up in the other northern region of Florida, where they might be experiencing some technical connection issues today with the weather. But anyway, you guys know Zach is one of the best Bitcoin developers in the world, also the founder of VX Technologies, where they make it simple to store and verify records on the blockchain. I am still rocking my Camel Society PFP, hashtag Free Ross. And this show is brought to you by CoinGeek, who reports on all things blockchain with a focus on enterprise utility and the solutions provided by scalable proof-of-work public blockchains. Again, this is where we all come together, left curves, right curves, and we challenge popular crypto narratives, ask the most important questions, arrive at our own independent conclusions. No financial advice, do your own research. This is episode 39 of CoinGeek Weekly Discussions, and I am very excited that we have the privilege of soaring with someone I consider a dear friend for the next hour, maybe two, a special guest. We've got developer and musician Shirish in the house. That's right, Shirish in the building. Of course, Shirish founded a blockchain-enabled music label called Geist that you might have heard of. Also a cognition studio called World Builder. And Shirish is the man behind all the blockchain development on the popular Dark to Light card game. So in addition to hearing about Shirish's journey, we're going to talk all about how gamers and game devs can use blockchain, how musicians and music fans can use blockchain, and so much more. Plus, of course, prize giveaways. Like I said, surprise guests. You never know who's going to jump on stage. I get DMs all the time from very special people. So let's check in with one special person, my friend Zach, GM. I hope you're doing well, sir. Glad you got connected. Happy Friday. Let us know. One, how was your week? And two, what is the most important news in blockchain this week that people need to know about?
Well, first,
Zach
can
Wins.
you hear me?
Yes, sounding good. Happy Friday. Can you hear me? I heard you, but there you are.
Cool. Happy Friday. I'm stuck in like one location in the house. I can't hear.
All right. Well, yeah, doing the best I can to make out, but I'm
stuck in the house where I get 2 bars of service instead of.
Yeah, you're cutting out, but as I know you're definitely a delay in your remote area on the lake. So see if there's anything you can do to get a better connection, Zach. And let's check back in with you in a minute. I'm wondering what's the biggest news in blockchain this week. Well, before we get into blockchain, of course, can't ignore some of the just biggest news in general. You know, headlines: Julian Assange free after 1,901 days. The I guess you can call him an infamous Bitcoin pioneer in many ways, with WikiLeaks being early adopters and Assange being a political prisoner really for so long. That was pretty big deal to see over the last few days. We've got presidential debate last night. No mention of Bitcoin or crypto. I was kind of had my ears out for that to see if that might have come up. Apparently, it did come up in Kennedy's alternative thing that RFK held, where he mentioned Bitcoin or crypto a bit. But
Yeah, one thing that caught my attention is there's this thing on BTC. They're talking about fractal Bitcoin. Zach, I don't know if you can hear me. Opcat, something where they are. I don't know. Somebody was like, "This is basically BSV now on BTC." So that's something I wanted to ask you guys about. But yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff going on. There is the one sat ordinals updates in big block world that I was pretty excited to see. We've got one sat dot market, pretty cool looking marketplace now for ordinals enjoyers, and but most importantly, we've got Sharish in the house on stage. So let's check in with Sharish. Hopefully he's having no connection issues. But I want to ask Sharish the same question. If we can get a quick mic check. Welcome to the show. Happy Friday. And what's caught your attention as of lately in the biggest blockchain news as of late?
What's up, guys? Can you hear me? We all good?
Sounding good. Thanks, man.
Okay, cool.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've been out of the loop with the blockchain stuff, and very much so with the BSV stuff. So I wanted to turn it back on you. What's been happening in BSV? Maybe you can catch me up.
Yeah, well, the last thing I mentioned is I saw that one sat ordinals posted recently. Maybe I can get it pinned up to the top, where the one sat ordinals site is more of a developer focused thing, where they've got resources and like tools and stuff for devs, and then they've got the one sat dot market, which is the new and improved interface for people who are interested in trading these various assets, where the ordinals protocol on BSV being something that has kind of been hyped up quite a bit, and we've seen a few examples like Champions. Of course, shout out to Champions. They are the sponsor of the giveaway, so that's what you guys will win if you hit repost and get selected randomly. You'll win a Champions card pack. But there hasn't been a whole lot of things aside from Champions. I mean, there's been a few that we've seen with ordinals, and I think that these latest updates we're seeing from the OneSat team could change that. So I'm really excited to see that. Did you come across that? Have you looked at the new site?
I haven't looked at the new site, but I feel like I've seen it a while ago. So there's not much happening in the BSV space. Is that right?
Well, I mean, how far do you want to zoom out? I was just kind of talking about the last few days or a couple weeks or whatever. But I mean, Zach, probably a better person to check in with on just sort of a general take on what's new for, I guess, the last few months. Yeah, I mean, people are still holding out to see what's going to happen with Terranode. So it does feel like a kind of a lot of waiting. But we had a great interview with Rod Sirloin last week, who seems to still be down in the trenches doing some cool stuff and, making us all laugh. So, we're still here. How about you, Zach? Are you still here?
I was just going to say, people definitely need to laugh. But yeah, go ahead, Zach.
Can you guys hear me? Is the delay too long?
I think it should be good. Let's try it.
All right. I think in the last few months with BSV specifically, and I recognize that there's not a whole lot of reason to go Bitcoin, but it does enable a bunch of commerce. So I don't know if you guys saw this, but I think there's a second stable coin that came out last week. I didn't get a chance to really look into it, but that says to me that businesses are going to start to operate on the chain. The types of businesses that don't want to take the risk on the underlying assets volatility, but want to be able to utilize the benefits of the blockchain, including the speed and the ability of the chain, to do commerce, right? Like that's what stable coins unlock on many other chains, but specifically Ethereum and Solana. And I think we're going to see the same type of trend happen here with this one. Well, maybe not with this particular stablecoin, but with one of them. A couple other things that I don't think the one stat site is the same that you would have seen months ago, although it might look the same. There's so much more there now. There's a collection minter coming soon. Let's see, what's Alex touched on the Foxes. So we have now the largest collection on a chain ever. I think maybe Champions would dispute that they were, but they're a group of collections, and Foxes are just one. I don't know. Give me a few minutes. I'll think of other advancements in the last few months. It's been stressful for me, Sharish. I know we haven't talked in a while, but like I've gone through some major life changes. So, thinking back on the last few months about BSV stuff on the spot, it's kind of difficult to do given all the family shit that I've gone through. But it hasn't been a slow few months at all. Although I do think we've probably, lost some support among people who were only here to see Craig Wright in the court case. But I also think that's all right. Because if that's the reason we're here, then you probably weren't adding too much value anyhow. So hopefully you guys could hear all that. I'm sorry for the connection issues, and I'll go back on mute.
No, I think it worked loud and clear for me. So hopefully, problem solved. Stay in that spot and don't move, Zach, for the whole next 2 hour and 20 minutes or 40 minutes.
Yeah,
So,
well, thanks.
Go ahead, Sharish.
Yeah, thanks for catching me up. Sorry to hear about those family issues, man. I hope you're good. Yeah, I asked the question because I kind of want to make BSV people squirm a little bit. I want this, let's say, quieter time to involve a lot of introspection for BSV people, and hopefully this introspection can pave a path forward for BSV to actually succeed, or at least gain some traction. It's hard to understand what BSV success looks like, right? Because some people would definitely, some of these diehards would argue that it's like successful now, right? But that's like a pretty poor indicator of success, I would say, just because it exists. I think I wanted to talk about the projects that I'm working on. I've been hired to work on a different chain, and I'm also working on Dark to Light. And I'm building out the Geist system to use Escrypt to do some very interesting stuff. But I think before we talk about all that stuff, I want to just kind of talk about why I got interested in Bitcoin in the first place and where we are now. And I think, some of this might be old hat for you guys because, nobody's like more psychologically disturbed or, mentally ill or whatever than BSV people. But we're here, and I want to just talk about how we got here a little bit. And maybe maybe while I'm talking about that, something new will come up. So when I was in like 2017, 2016, I was on Twitter with the the alt right, and we were tweeting about Trump all day. That was my first Twitter, and I heard about Bitcoin, and I was working in the music business, and so I was kind of like curious about it, but I didn't really have the like idea of like making money. I knew it was a thing, but I just didn't personally have that money. I didn't have a lot of capital. So what got me interested was I found out that Bitcoin was programmable in some sense. And I wasn't even really a developer at that time, but I had taken some computer science courses in college and stuff. So I just kind of understood what might be possible. And I thought, and at that time, I was working on a lot of music for people, and they just kept screwing me out of getting any royalties. And it was happening over and over. And, or my royalties would be like tiny, like a couple cents a month or something, even though these tracks were getting lots of plays. And so I thought, well, what if there's a way to like program the split so that nobody can change it? Like it can't be changed at a later point, or the money moves automatically. And at that time, I reached out to somebody on Twitter uh, who was like a crypto person who I was friends with. And I asked them, like, how do I learn about Bitcoin? And they sent me to read, they told me about Daniel Krawitz. And they sent me to read all of his papers, which at that time were at the Nakamoto Institute. And that was kind of what started the Bitcoin journey. And I consider that a blessing because, well, for the longest time, I considered it a blessing because, as you all know, if you have the wrong entry point in the crypto, you can spend a lot of time, you can spend a lot of wasted time, let's say, learning something and then unlearning it. But I would also argue that it was also a curse because I still had that process. I still learned a lot about Bitcoin, which I'm grateful for. And then I had to unlearn a lot of it as time went on because so much of it was divorced from reality. So what I came to understand was like there's two sides to this crypto thing. And I'm talking about all cryptos. There's two like inherent properties of every blockchain. And that is that they have the potential of utility. That utility may be constrained by the design of the blockchain, but generally they all have the possibility to be used for something. And the other part is that they all inherently have an exponential function built in. This took me a long time to realize because the kind of like general understanding of crypto is that it's pump and dump schemes. But the reality is that pump and dump is built in to these systems. I think it's an inherent property for them. And the reason why is because they are commerce at light speed. So, for example, like there was a stock market crash that happened, I think, I'm probably going to get the decade wrong, but I want to say it was either late 90s or early 2000s or something. But it was when they started introducing algorithmic computer-based trading. And there was a stock market crash where the entire market dropped like 50, 100 points or something. Quite a lot, but it bounced back immediately, like in like a minute. And this was because these computers just traded a giant drop and a giant recovery in like the space of a minute. And this kind of thing happens sometimes. I think it's been smoothed out now, probably, but the reason was that that's what light speed commerce does. Okay. For the longest time, I was trying to understand, like, because I'm a artist and I have this ego when it comes to art, and I want to like use the chain to like produce new artifacts, on this new continent or new planet, and I'm want to imbue it with artistic significance. But over time, I actually began to realize that in the new paradigm, bad art wins. And by the it's a little tongue in cheek because bad is I mean, to me, there's an objective thing that is called bad, but you can say bad is subjective. So I'm not going to hate on everybody's art, but the point is that when you have the decentralized blockchain, when you have all the properties of it, it's more like everybody owns a million pieces of art than like a few people own the most expensive pieces of art. We could get into that subject a little more, but I think people understand what I'm saying. It's more, it's more, like I have the most like valuable art objects I have. I'm not gonna trade them away. I'm not gonna trade them a million times a second. But if I have a lot of, mid or bad art, if I have millions of pieces of mid or bad art that I don't care that much about, I will trade them a million times a second. And so it's like these things, like this utility and this exponential function, this light speed commerce thing, these are like built into the coins. And over the past 5-6 years, the BSV people, I'm not pointing the finger at anyone. I'm just going to say, like, the BSV community at large has basically tried to introduce a third thing, which is that there is a correct blockchain implementation, and actually it turns out it's moral. It's a moral based thing, right? So you need to understand Mises. You need to read libertarian economics. You need to read the Austrian school. You need to understand Craig Law. You got to understand all these things, and then this will put you in a morally correct mindset that opens you up to BSV, which is the ultimate blockchain. And while that's all great, like, I cannot deny that I'm grateful for all this knowledge and this education and all that, but it's also just not empirically true in a lot of ways. So where that leads us to is that when you strip everything away, when you strip all ideology, all everything, the question is which blockchain can do the utility and the exponent the best. And the answer is BSV. BSV is the best blockchain by these standards, and it's the most scalable, which is what makes it the best. But for whatever reason, like, people have rejected this thing. I mean, I even saw that when you guys posted this space, somebody commented under it, and they said, "I'm a scammer because I built the first, literally the first." By the way, I just want you guys to know, the thing that I'm the most grateful to Bitcoin for, like the actual improvement that it has made in my life, is that it forced me to become a developer. Because I used to code before, I used to write code, but all the code I wrote was pertaining to music. It was like either to make music or to make visuals for music. But then I wanted to build actual BSV apps and stuff, so it made me a better developer. That being said, I was the only person who wrote a inscription marketplace that was based on the lock to mint tokens. And yet somebody is calling me a scammer. And this is the problem, okay? Not only because, I mean, like, it's fine if one person is calling you a scammer when there's 1,000, 10,000, 1 million people in the economy, okay? But there's 5 people in the economy, and 3 of them are going to call me a scammer, okay? Like, this shit is not tenable. It's not, there's no growth when this happens. And BSV people are too smart for their own good, and they're also too retarded for their own good. And I'm not just trying to go on a tirade against these people, but the reality is that there is no community. Like, this is the irony. The chain is the best, but there's no community less deserving. Okay? Less deserving, less humble. There is no community less humble and less, empathetic, maybe kind to each other, like less supportive to each other. Like, I'm not going to call out names, but we have literally the worst people. Okay. It's nobody here, certainly. We have the worst people representing this blockchain. Uh, they are full of shit. They are liars. Like, they represent us by, again, taking this morally superior stance. And the problem is that a blockchain is an economy, okay? No one person represents an economy, okay? No, it just doesn't work that way. And yet, because of the way there's an entity called Crypto Twitter, and it's the entire blockchain is like lives around Twitter. It's like a ring around Saturn or something. And because of this, we have certain people that represent us, and they speak for the economy. And I have nothing in common with these people, absolutely zero. So that's all been very disappointing. And it wouldn't really matter that much if the chain was growing, if there were more people coming in, more people who needed to become developers, okay, more people who came in with an artistic bent, or more people that came in wanting to start businesses, et cetera, et cetera. Wouldn't be an issue, right? But that hasn't happened. So instead, we're stuck we're in the shadow more and more of these people. And I think that BSV has not actually lost support. It's just really that people are tired of being represented in this way. And they're also tired of losing money, which, is a real shame. I can tell you that I missed out on every opportunity, every crypto opportunity that, by the way, we were all poised to win from, okay? Because nobody is deeper in the ass crack of crypto than BSV people. And we all saw opportunities for like 5-6 years, okay? 5-6 years, many, many opportunities. We chose to forego them because, again, of like a arrogant belief. And I speak for myself in this regard. I'm sure we all have an experience like this. And so there's something I was going to say, but it slipped my mind. But, you get the point. So the question is, okay, well, yeah, Zach, sorry, I'll just finish up. And so there's certainly more to talk about, but I think what happened was what we did see over the last 5-6 years is that all of the metas, the crypto metas, they were moving in a certain direction. And the direction was, so my understanding is that in like 2017, 2018, DeFi began to exist. And that led to all of these like obscure financial instruments. I think it also proliferated the idea of needing layer twos. And then inscriptions and ordinals came out. And this was a revelation because, like, okay, on-chain economy, whatever, that's obviously the biggest revelation. But most people don't understand that part, I think. What they really understand is that the barrier to entry is as low as possible for the highest multiple, because the whole point of inscriptions is that you deploy somebody else mints. So it's like the barrier to entry is like effectively zero. So what's better than like free, and then you get $1 million? Like the crypto pump and dump property has never been. It's like divided by zero. It's like to infinity. Like you can get in the easiest and get out the fastest, and so on and so forth. And you can repeat this over and over. So all of that to say that I actually do feel like with that, and then with all the airdrop shit that's been going on the past year, like yield farming and points farming and all this stuff, I feel like the the apex of crypto, like the people who are at the at the very tip of it, very edge of it, um, the the pump meta is sort of coming to a close. I think that it's actually like utilities time has finally come. I don't know what that means, but what I do know is that while BSV is poised for greatness, we have spent so much time not building all the fun little toys that people use to get 10x's and stuff. So there's also, like it's almost like we have to catch up to the rest of the crypto space in this regard. But anyways, that's I'll leave it there.
Well said, Sharish. Zach, I think you wanted to jump in, or did you move from your designated 3-foot
No, I'm in my cell.
spot?
But I also, we don't really talk about this topic a lot on the show. We try to keep this more positive than negative. But Sharish, you went on a monologue that I think was worthy of everyone's time, frankly. And so, since you touched on it, I'm going to bring something like I'm going to regroup on something that you said, which is to paraphrase you a little bit, if I may, the negativity from individuals in this space, and because this space is so small, those individuals represent an outsized percentage of the entire community, have pushed artists and builders away. And I say artists and builders using yourself as an example, who is both an artist and a builder. And I think it's worth noting that oftentimes people feel like their own personal point of view is so important that it must be heard by the rest of the community, to the point where if you're not willing to acquiesce to their point of view, you must not have heard it. And I think, if I may, that continuing to indulge this type of attitude is destructive to our ability to grow a community. And I think you guys know me well enough by now to know that I really do try to give respect to everybody. We try not to silence people. I genuinely try not to block people. But I think we do give too much space and time to the loudest negative voices in the room that tend to overshadow the small wins that we could be celebrating along the path to success. And to the point that you made about individual people and how you got to be, I think there are a lot of people who follow your path. And when you look at the individuals who specifically spend a lot of time researching what others may consider to be a conspiracy theory, or numbers of what other people may consider to be conspiracy theories, whether they're wrong or not, they start to see those types of trends everywhere. And early on in my experience in BSV, there was sort of this purity test that existed that I really wasn't willing to participate in, that I think sort of has spilled over into this minimum viable community that we continue to wrangle out here. But that purity test was whether or not you were willing to call people who like Bitcoin BTC flavor pedos because Epstein had invested in it or had guided some elements of its development or lack of development, depending on how you looked at it. Running around calling each other pedos after that, number one, it degrades the word and how serious that word happens to actually be. But number two, a atmosphere where mudslinging becomes at least as appropriate as celebrating wins, and is conducive to the type of businesses that we can see flourish on this particular chain. And so it's a long-winded way to get there, but we need to see something like this for a long time for opening the door. But for me, trying to build business at a place, quite literally the loudest voices, boldly calling each other's scam, regardless of what is actually occurring. Right? Just like reflexively scam, even if it was free airdrop art token that literally cost nobody anything, is detrimental to the community that we would like to build, the bonds that we would like to see grow and develop, and the infrastructure that we would like to be able to begin to rely on as something more than just a place where other people get scam really, really loud. So I'm not going to tell you that I have the proposal to remove those types of voices from being heard, because like I said, I don't like to block people. I don't like to remove voices from discourse. I don't like to quash dissent in that way. That said, I do think that moving forward, there should be, and I'll try to do my best to lead by example here, a concerted effort to do better than that, and to call out the negative actors who don't have further contribution than just negative words, to try to say this contribution is not helping the rest of us or the cause that you are at least pretending you want to champion. So figure out a better way to help push this ball forward, or more people are going to be condescending towards you. I don't really know what the punishment is because I don't want to block people. But, if more people could jump on this train with me, it might be easier for us to figure out how to incentivize the best behavior out of the participants in our ecosystem.
The punishment should be to make them poor. Like, everybody in BSV should be so rich at this point that only the people that decry everything should be poor. You know what I mean? Like, if there were 10 apps that came out in the last year and everybody, these people, okay, call them all scams, but every single person listening here made a 10x BSV on all 10, then that person's voice doesn't matter. In fact, it becomes ridiculous. Okay. Right now, the reason why, and by the way, I don't think, just as a tangent, I don't think I don't think negativity in BSV is like that big of a, I mean, I don't know, maybe it is. It certainly makes it harder to engage. Like, I know there's a lot of people in BSV who I, consider friends for sure, but I just don't want to, like, I just don't want to enter the rooms sometimes where my friends are, because there's a bunch of fucking alligators and like vomit on the floor. Okay. Like, these, but yeah, the goal, the only real solution is to make them poor. And I was going to say that the well, again, sorry, it slipped my mind, but yeah, make them poor. It's the only solution. You don't need to punish them or anything, like punish them by opportunity cost. Um, oh yeah, well, I guess the reason why I think they feel okay to do this, the reason why they feel good to do this is because it's because of that moral superiority argument that BSV has over these other chains. Like, BSV is like it's like an apocalyptic cult. It's like Jehovah's Witnesses or something, because the whole thesis in BSV is that BSV rises from the ashes of all the other chains. Like, every other chain dies, and every millions of people lose billions of dollars. They lose their entire lives, and then suddenly they fucking BSV comes up. Okay, you got a Kurt Wookert's bald head emerges from the ashes. Okay, like a Svengali, and everybody rubs it, and they get 10 sats, and now they're a millionaire. Like, this shit is complete garbage. This shit is the most garbage shit I've ever heard. And the funny thing is, every person in BSV, okay, claims to be a libertarian economist, but nobody wants to win in the free market. Nobody wants to build a superior product. Okay. Again, no hate on anybody, no real criticism, because again, like, I think most of the builders in BSV are doing what they can, okay, with very limited resources. Okay, limited resources, abuse from idiots, um, people who can't meme. Like, everything is working against the builders in BSV. It's a pretty remarkable group, I think, all things considered. But um, like, everything we've built, almost everything, has been in the shadow of other chains. And the reason for that is not because BSV people can't come up with pump and dump schemes or exponential schemes, let's say. That's not the reason why people can't do it. The reason why is because the animus is so against that sort of thing. Again, I literally, it's just so funny to me because I built this site in like 3 hours, maybe over the course of 3 months. It earned me around 2 BSV in trading fees, and I pushed maybe like 1,000 transactions. That's it. It's like a hobby project. It's like doing a YouTube tutorial and building your first video game. It's like building Pac-Man, on your computer, and you're like, oh, I did that, and then you put it on your portfolio or you show your fam. It's like literally that small of a project, and I get like backlash from people I've never met. Okay, who are supposed to be like elevated people in the economy with me, right? We're supposed to be like Nietzschean Ubermensch types who are building this ground up economy. Whatever. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that it's hilarious. Like, it's funny, and people are laughing at us because of it, you know? So, like,
You know what's funny about what you just said too, and I don't think you're wrong on any point. But you said that we're terrible at memes, and generally I agree with you. But since there's only like less than 300 people in BSV, we actually have like the highest per capita meme lords than any other chain because the amount of people on the chain are so small. We got like 3 or 4 of them out there. If we could just grow the community to like 800, we'd have 10 meme lords.
yeah, you're not wrong. And I mean, the problem is that all the memes come out of resentment. Like, they're not coming from like a place of joy and like spreading like humor or something. They're all coming from like a deep resentment, like a dark place. What I'll say is, look, everybody in a blockchain community, everybody has a role. Okay, you have Zach is the builder; he builds the product. Okay, then you have shillers. That's everybody else. Everybody else fucking shills the product. They don't care whether it's good or bad. They don't put a moral judgment on it. They shill it so that they can pump the bag. And then you have a meme lord in the shiller audience, and that person can spread the message far and wide because they make memes. That's like the role of the blockchain community. Instead, we have a house divided. We have 100 personalities that everyone thinks they're an individual. Okay, everyone is fucking John Galt, and they all control the entire economy. Everybody's Craig, right? We're all Satoshi, right? That's kind of the environment that's been cooked or has come to exist in all this, right? And by the way, I'm still very bullish on BSV. But the only reason I'm bullish is because we all need to like internalize the lessons. Okay, I'm young. All right, I consider most people in BSV to have kind of like a young spirit. Okay, generally, like, to be young forever, you have to learn from lessons, right? You can't just do the same old shit and expect different results. You have to learn from lessons, and you have to get better and better and better. You have to gain wisdom. Okay, there's literally so much wisdom to be gained from the last 6 years in BSV. I mean, it's remarkable, right? You can tell that people are like veterans. Like, you can tell they've been through shit when they talk. But if we don't all internalize this wisdom, then we can't be like we can't actually be industrialists.
All right. Speaking of being industrialists, you mentioned you were hired to work on some projects that are using other blockchains. I think. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So I, I've always. Can you guys hear me? I stepped outside for a second.
Yep.
Okay. So I like making games. I like developing games. It's probably my favorite type of software development. And I made a game that I was going to put on Haste Arcade. And by the way, I mean, just as a small tangent, in those days when I was making this game, that was like 2021, early 2021. And in many ways, that was kind of like a peak BSV time. It was before inscriptions had come out on BTC. So it still seemed like BSV was like objectively the best chain. Like, you couldn't do that much on other chains, right? You had really cool apps. You had Relay was killing it. You had Haste. You had DXS or whatever, TDXP, and then you had Token Swap. I think was still around. Like, you had like interesting apps. Some of them were trying to do something new, like Haste. Some of them were they were like legitimately novel financial instruments. And the reason why I think about this time very fondly is because I was using all of these apps in um, in a new way, specifically RelayX. Okay, I was talking to someone, and I told them I want to make Craigslist on Bitcoin because I feel like that should exist, which I still don't think really exists, which is a shame, absolute shame. But they were like, well, that's what RelayX is. And I said, really? And then I thought about it, and I kind of agreed that that is what RelayX is ultimately, is kind of like Craigslist on Bitcoin. And so I used Relay to hire developers. I used it to hire people and negotiate deals using the run tokens on RelayX. I feel like, we never really evolved past that state. And I still don't think enough people um, got to use these things in this way, you know? So anyways, I just want to remind everybody how good we had it at one time, and we could have done it, and it'll come back again for sure. Maybe. I don't know. But that's what we had at one point. And by the way, remember back then, you know, yeah, okay. All I'm saying is, if you were negative then, when we had so much going on, I mean, take a look at yourself, man. Anyways, Gala Chain. I was hired by, so I was. I don't want to give a long story, but I was in New York over the winter, and I met this like game collective. And one of these guys was like, I need somebody who knows how to do blockchain stuff. And I was like, oh, me. And he said, there's a guy who's he owns a bar in Beacon, New York. Beacon is upstate New York. It's a really pretty area. And he owns this huge bar, and the bar is an arcade. And he's looking for a developer. So I got in touch with this guy, and he was like, I want to make a game, and I happen to be connected to the higher ups at a chain called Gala Chain, which I had never heard of. but apparently it's like 35th on CoinMarketCap, something like that. Like it's above BSV. So, he was like, I want to build this game on GalaChain, and I happen to know these people at GalaChain, so that's the chain I want to use. But certainly open to multi-chain and all that. So that started this process. I was basically contracted to work on a game, which I've been building. But then it's grown into this larger thing because I've taken all the lessons I've learned in BSV and the other cryptos and all that, and the tokenomics that I've learned from Jack Liu and different projects and all that. And I've taken all that and used that knowledge to basically turn this idea, which is a physical arcade cabinet that can play these like blockchain enabled games where like you earn tokens in one game and can play them in another and so on, all that kind of stuff. I use that to basically shape this entire business model. And I mean, this is crazy, right? So at the same time that the Script hackathon was going on, remember that? Remember the Script hackathon? At the same time that was
Yeah,
going on,
I was there.
yeah, great. And I really wanted to like make something for it. Okay, I've had a couple ideas, but this is this is what's crazy. Okay, uh, I took I talked to my client. I talked to my guy, and I said, "Look, I know how this shit works. Okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna enter because there's a GalaChain hackathon. Okay, that's what it was. Just at the same time as the Script hackathon was a GalaChain hackathon. And so I told him, like, look, I know how this shit works. We're going to make a very good PowerPoint that explains roughly the tokenomics of this system where you have a physical arcade cabinet that connects to the blockchain and all this. And then we're going to include some GIFs of the game that I was making. Okay. And I'm telling you this because I don't think the product is not bullshit, but this entry to this hackathon was a little bit of bullshittery, okay? Because I just know how this shit works. And guess what? We won $5,000, okay? Just like that. Why? Because GalaChain has millions to blow. And they just want to give money to everybody who's doing something on GalaChain. They don't care whether it works. Again, I have belief in this product. I'm now like working on it almost full time. And I think there's a lot of potential here, and we can get into that. But the point is that like the idea that I wanted to build on the Script hackathon, again, this is no fault of Script or anything, but the idea I wanted to build on the Script hackathon is like this, like it's like my grand idea. It's my magnum opus idea. But I don't even think they had, like, I think they started with $5,000 was the grand prize. Maybe they got up to like 15. Like it's not worth it. My magnum opus application that I want to build using smart contracts was simply not worth it to build it because all I needed to do was make a fucking PowerPoint on GalaChain, and we've got we've gotten obscene funding so far compared to anything that's possible on BSV. I don't know. This is not like I don't know how to solve this problem, but the reality is that because BSV is so poor, uh, it's it's caused this kind of environment where people are doing like here's the thing, right? If you work on Script, okay. By the way, so this GalaChain, it's a funny comparison. I think it's a useful comparison. GalaChain it started as a ERC20 token, and now it's its own layer one, and it's based on Hyperledger. And these guys, like when I talked to the actual GalaChain team, uh, they had not even considered things like They had not even considered things like making what is it? Like making like uh, fungible tokens that can like move, that can be deployed or minted directly, like on interaction. You know, things like this, like because we're talking about an arcade game, right? You know, you collect points, whatever. Uh, the limit of their imagination was still like 2 or 3 years behind BSV at that point. So if you're building anything on BSV, you're already working at a higher level of complexity and sophistication than most of these chains, which most people in BSV would be like, well, of course. But it's like the joke's on you because you're doing way too much work for very little reward, right? You got to remember that that exponential function is built in. So your goal is to do the least amount of work for the highest exponent. Like that's the ratio. Um, yeah. Okay. So since you asked about what that business is, where it's evolved to is, and I'm also this is I'll give you guys just some things I've learned from these other chains, like what they're up to. So the where the business has evolved to is that the hardware inside the cabinet, which I'm currently designing, can be like a licensed product. So you know you have like a Raspberry Pi with a net card, and um, and then you have the physical enclosure that the that it's put inside. And even already at this point now, um, this cabinet has been. And by the way, like my client is a non-crypto person. He's like a layman, right? He's like a real world business owner who's kind of a layman in crypto. And yet already, because we won that hackathon, because, you know, of the people he knows and the conversations and all that, we've already had like 5 pre-orders of these cabinets. And these cabinets go for 5 grand each. And there's going to be one in Dubai. There's going to be one in Vancouver. There's going to be one in New York, one in the fucking Philippines. You know, like this project has already spread worldwide with thousands of people interested. The cabinet can be licensable, and my goal is to design the back end system such that all of these cabinets can be all over the world, and yet they all connect to a centralized server that essentially can generate and remember everybody's wallets and stuff and create all these interactions. Um, and it's already been like, okay, I'll tell you the reason why I keep saying, talking about how successful it is pre-product is because what this was like kind of what I was looking for when I originally came in about the music stuff. Like what interested me was the possibility, and Jack Lew talks about this a lot, which I've really appreciated because he's basically given words to something that I've felt for a long time. Like, you know, when I first I moved to New York when I was 17, and I started throwing parties, and I was DJing at these parties, and at that time, Airbnb was in its like beta phase, like it wasn't really like people weren't really using it like they are now. So at that time, the only properties you could find on Airbnb were like abandoned warehouses and stuff, which was perfect for throwing parties. So I would like rent these warehouses on Airbnb. I would get 10 friends to each put in like $100, $200, and we would throw the most banger parties ever, like insane. And everybody would get paid out depending on how much they put in. So it was like a DAO, right? There's like a physical DAO. And I did this for like 3, 4 years. And there was no there was no startup that could like enable this kind of an interaction, this kind of cooperation, until you start seeing what's now possible in crypto, and perhaps was always possible, which is that you can get your pre-seed funding from your customers before the product even exists, because you can put an idea into the market, and if people like it, they will fund you before the product even exists, which is a way better paradigm than the standard fundraising that you have to go to, in the kind of legacy world. And I know this because when we after we threw those parties, eventually I started getting approached by people who wanted to like sponsor these events and stuff. And I mean, you know, it just got really gay really fast. Okay, so it was only good when me and my friends put in money. And by the way, a lot of my friends they didn't fucking do any work, right? They don't have to, because they had $500 and I only had $100. All I needed was that money. They put in $500. They got out $1,250, and we could throw a killer party. This feeds into another thing. I'm just gonna keep cooking. Stop me at any time. But uh, when I was like really, really making music and earning my income from music, which I still do, but I transitioned into being an audio engineer for the last like 5, 6 years. But before that, when I was really making money from music, the way that I did it was never from the music that I worked on, like actual music, like stuff you can find on Spotify. It was never that. It was that income was always really tiny, and it's not because these were small songs. I mean, even if they were small, when you work on 150 songs a year, you should be making like a couple grand a month at least. Okay, you should, but you don't. At least not me, because I was a producer. So you may have more success as a performer or a songwriter, but it was basically doing this production stuff that really got me to understand like what's up with this business. The way that I was actually getting paid was I had a friend who ran a dance company. She was a ballet dancer, and she would hire me to do all the music for their soundtracks for their Broadway performances, right? Or off Broadway performance, excuse me. So like that's how I actually made money, is I would get paid by dance companies. This happened a couple times, to like compose these soundtracks for them. And the reason I bring it up is because both of these times, both when I was throwing these parties and when I was getting paid this way, the the relationship of the artist and patron was kind of set in stone. Like this is actually the relationship that uh, art flourishes under. Is you have a person with money but no taste pays a person with no money but taste, and that's as old as time, right? I genuinely think that Bitcoin kind of codifies this relationship, or it can, you know, but it does it on a much more micro level. Like it's what I was saying before about how uh, it's no longer about uh, a few people own the most valuable pieces of art. It's everybody owns a million pieces of art that all have some value. You know, um, I was gonna this another thing I what also helped me learn about this was because I buy and sell Pokemon cards. But even just collectible markets in general have actually taught me a lot about crypto. And they really do enforce that the moral superiority within BSV is absolute trash because, like, for example, coins, right? Numismatics. The coin market, if you look at the top 20 coins, the most valuable coins in the world, how many of them do you like? What do you think they would be if you thought about it intellectually? You would think maybe that the top 20 coins, they must be ancient coins, they must be Roman coins, maybe Babylonian coins, etc. Like ancient world coins, right? Very rare, very scarce, precious metals. You would think that those would be the most valuable, but they're not. Of the top like 10 coins, like 6 or 7 of them are American coins from the 19th and 20th centuries. They're all like fairly recent, relatively speaking. So the point is that the value is entirely subjective. There are all these like objective indicators that people try to use with collectibles, which I consider crypto to be sort of related to, adjacent to. They call collectibles alternative assets, and what else is crypto but that? Um, so it's all subjective. It's also true in Pokemon cards, Magic cards, vintage uh, collectibles, old cars, right? All of these things, like the value is entirely subjective. It's never really that objective. Like people use things like, well, the older, the rarer, and the better condition, the more valuable. But that's just not the case most of the time. It's really just what people want. So I guess that brings me full circle back to why BSV needs to win in the free market is, or how BSV wins in the free market is abandon the ideology and you win in the free market because you either provide something that you can't get anywhere else, which, by the way, I don't know if you guys have realized this, but that the gap of what you can do on BSV versus other chains is closing rapidly. That gap used to be huge. Okay, pre-inscription, pre-ordinals. Now it's closing. So even though you can do the most transactions for the cheapest, et cetera, the actual gap of like novel interaction that you can do on BSV versus other chains is closing. So maybe we can't rely on that anymore, right? I mean, think about the backlash that locking had. The very fact that people within BSV had come up with something that you can't really do on other chains, and yet there was like actual backlash within BSV about it. I mean, it's just insane. Uh, but anyway, so and then the other thing you can do is look at what the market wants and provide it better than the competition, right? I generally think that these are the only two things you can do at this point because the apocalyptic hypothesis will not come to pass. Okay? You can't sit around waiting for the apocalypse on other chains. It's silly. Um, I guess I guess you asked about the Gala chain arcade, but I think I described it. I think you got the gist. Uh, the point is that as for me, as like a person still like I wish I could just make shit on BSV, you know, in my spare time or even full time. I mean, I was able to work on Dark to Light for a long time, which I'm very grateful for. That was awesome. Still working on it, by the way. We should talk about that as well. But my point is that I this project on Galachan just got so much attention in a short amount of time that we were able to get all this funding that is able to actually incentivize me to direct my attention there, right? Like my hash rate has been directed because I need to live like I like to spend my spare time making music and working out and going to the beach, like I can't BSV can't be a hobby, you know, for me. And I don't want it to be a hobby. I want it to either be the economy I exist in or not. So my point is that all of that has led to, like, look at how easy it is on these other chains. And if we were all able to get rich on other chains, maybe we might actually be able to do something on this chain. Perhaps. I don't know. But I think that's a better, like, course of action to take than to stay here in what we've already discussed is like a miasma of negativity and like Ludditism, right? Like boomerism, rejection of novelty, rejection of new. Uh, we've already, it's not gonna. Nothing can grow in a in a swamp. You know, we need to bring the fertility.
That's not true, bro. I live in a swamp, and I'll tell you, there's lots of shit that grows.
No, I was gonna say, as I was saying it, I was like, oh, that's wrong. I know that's wrong. You get what I'm saying? Nothing can. Okay, guess what, Zach? Nothing can grow in a barren wasteland.
Yeah. Listen, I get what you're saying. I just wanted to try to interject some levity into the seriousness of what you're talking about.
No,
and I will just take.
wait.
I will just, for the purpose of
Is
it.
what I'm saying not
ahead.
like I think what I'm saying is funny. Like I hope people understand that it's meant to be funny. I don't know. Anyway, sorry, go on.
So I will say
Well,
that you hear the term "the grass is always greener," and we look at Solana meme coins and people going. You mentioned 10x, but people go 1,000x, right? They turn a couple $100 into hundreds of thousands, and then do it again and turn it into these million quote dollar accounts that they show off. But and I don't want to discourage anybody from trying to do that, right? If you're a trader and you can go hit it in markets that are liquid and available for you to trade in, please, don't let anybody here discourage you from trying to do that. However, I do think that knowing your audience is really, really important. And so what you've been calling, and what I agree to, is kind of like a air of moral superiority that BSV fans like to flex. I'm going to put that aside for a second and come back to the idea that, if we're talking about where stuff grows, it grows where you water it and where you nourish it. And I will acquiesce to the point you made. There's nobody left here, right? This place is a ghost town right now. But just because the place is a ghost town doesn't mean there aren't, and this is for me in my own business, right? Areas worth watering regularly. And I do this. I'm one of the people that puts my money where my mouth is, right? I run a business that uses this chain. And I think there's a lot of crypto Twitter chat that kind of ignores the more serious boomer type non-sexy business stuff, because it's way easier to believe you can make it in a couple of days, hitting it on a meme coin, than to think you're going to have to invest years of your life. Most startups don't net a return for 5 years, regardless of if they're in tech, and definitely not related to BSV. So you can imagine it's probably 3-4 times as hard. So we may be looking at 20 years here. But to land this rant a little bit, I do think it's worth it for the people who are willing to consider making the effort to try to not focus on chasing quick gains in other places, unless that's your expertise or you can learn it, and try to focus on diligently growing something in one place. And if you happen to believe the place where that can flourish is BSV, then choose it there and focus on it. If you look at some of the best business plans over the last 10 years for the most successful businesses, if you're looking at Amazon or Tesla or SpaceX, and I guess two of those, same dude. They didn't come out with 8-month plans, or and I'm one of these guys that built this stuff that flips, time in a day, right? I built AskHappy that cost me a couple hours of my day and netted me maybe 10 or 15 Bitcoins over the life of that product, right? Not having to maintain it. But you make the real big wins, rather, most of the people that make it big, generally speaking, not necessarily in the crypto space, spent a lot of time sowing those seeds. And so, like, if you have the time, if you have the dedication, and you have the idea, I don't want to encourage those types of people to go try to make money somewhere else and bring it back unless they already have the skills to make the money somewhere else. Because otherwise, they're just going to end up spinning their wheels and never coming back and building the idea, and we won't get it.
Well, look, I agree with you, but I would I would argue, like I was saying before, I genuinely think that the kind of pump dump meta is over for the bleeding edge, right? It'll trickle down to retail as time goes on, but the point is that like because you can now like the meta for the past year on BTC, for example, and this has been true on the other chains, is like you can get like I got the runestone and I got the dog coin for doing nothing. Literally nothing. I got them for free.
Dude, I'm such a big fan of Leo and this community. Like, but you didn't. I just want to interject because you didn't get it for doing nothing. You got it for participating early, and because you were participating in a way where like the outcome was incredibly unknown, this person who has a vested interest in continuing the meta of ordinals was able to pull together a community and create value from seemingly nothing by including the people who were the most enthusiastic about it in the beginning. And by the beginning, I mean the first year. So it wasn't like day one. You know what I mean?
No, exactly. So what I'm saying is like from the outside, right? The whole that whole thing, Runestone and community, just looks like meme coin pump and dump, right? But the reality is that it's actually what you're actually doing is like you're uh you're like buying into a community or whatever. You're buying into some entity of some kind, right? So the actual like former ICO type meta is over, and what is happening now is a lot closer to what I was doing when I was throwing those parties, which was getting my friends who did zero work, but they just put in some money to throw these parties. Imagine, right, if I could tokenize those efforts and those people could like continue to earn, based on their participation. Um, we could do bigger and bigger parties, and the original contributors, right? We're all 17 years old, like trying to make it, could have all been winning, you know, like that's the kind of thing that I think things are getting to. So, in a way, that's like what utility. That's what passes for utility. I think on most chains is like it's no longer just buy the thing and hope it goes up and then sell the thing. It's like buy the thing, follow the people on Twitter, go into their spaces, like put the profile pic, join the Telegram, like you know, it's like this whole social social fi meta, like that's where things have evolved to on the other chains. Like they are in many ways evolving rapidly to do this kind of thing, right? Think about how strong the community is in BSV. I'm looking at the people who are listening. I've seen like 60-70% of these people for years on Twitter. Why are we not all earning together something on BSV? Like, why are we not all?
Yo, can I just?
Yeah,
Sorry. We just had a long conversation. You and I agreed on a lot of things. We made some points, but I think you just said something that like sparked in me a realization that we could be going about this the wrong way. You said you've seen the same faces in here, the same 30, 40 faces in here forever, right? And I make the joke often that there's only 300 of us. It's kind of from the Sparta 300 kind of deal, right? But we've been here for forever. Um, Clearly, the stuff that we've been coming up with hasn't been that attractive to this particular audience. And if we take the learnings from Pinterest, which was like a failing social network that only had 10,000 users, they really spent time digging into those 10,000 users and figuring out what it was that they loved and doubled down on all of that stuff instead of chasing new users and trying to add the same features as like an Instagram or a Facebook. And what you ended up with is something that like maybe lots of people don't really consider a social network, right? Like if I were to say social network, you'd probably think like TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, something like that. You know, Pinterest is going to be low on that list. Um, but they became something of a viral sensation by leaning into the fact that they didn't quite understand why their most core audience were the most core audience and then double down on that. And I don't know how we do that here, frankly. I'm not telling you I have a great idea for it, but it seems to me like if we've been saying things like tokens, NFTs, tokenomics, ordinals, and that's not what's working, maybe it's on us to figure out like what our audience actually wants and deliver on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of a self-perpetuating cycle because I can't speak for everybody, but like I said, generally the market within BSV, the thing that they want is copium, and that's why the people that serve the copium are the most popular, loudest voices. So I don't know how to fix that, but I am going to point it out because it's insane.
Let me point something out real quick. I want to give a hats off to Ether Beast. As some of you may see already, I pinned at 4:20 p.m. as per usual the winner. And this week it's Ether Beast. Shout out for reposting. You won a Champions trading card game pack. Shoot a DM to the CoinGeek account with your hand cash handle to claim it. And yeah, you didn't get it for free like Zach was mentioning. You got it for participating, right? You exchanged your repost, your engagement, and that's what happens. Good things happen to good people. So yeah, I want to actually go to a comment from the comments. If you guys didn't notice, in the bottom right, there is a little bit of chatter going on about the space, and one particularly from a Dima, who is a familiar face. He says, no offense, but the idea that because other blockchains waste money, that is, give to people who just make PowerPoint, and that's something good, and BSV should do the same. That idea is stupid, doesn't work in a decentralized chain. He goes on, but do you have any response to that, Sharish? Well, maybe I should just finish. He says, first, other projects are centralized, thus initiators have money to throw in the hope for shit to stick. Maybe it's good for them. Second, there is no single entity that wins. If your PowerPoint stuff works out, everyone does, but I'm not wasting my money on your PowerPoints. Sorry.
Okay, here's why that's like the wrong perspective. Okay, first off, by the way, I don't know if you've engaged with startup culture at all, but that's entirely what it is. Okay, there's too much money. I mean, I don't think it's like this anymore. I think this is dying out, but there's a lot of money that is given to people for very little more than the equivalent of a PowerPoint or a presentation or an idea. Okay. The difference is that in the crypto world, Dima gets the chance to invest pre-seed into an idea. Whereas in the VC world, not only will, what's the last VC funded community? I mean, it just sounds awful, doesn't it? You don't get that. And secondly, like the idea is that, so again, like let's assume that what I said is true, that the pump and dump meta is gone. Let's assume that everybody is trying to now have community, like the product that they're selling is community, right? Which I think is generally true. The more you look on BTC, for example, with the runes and all that, that is like what every one of those tokens is selling. Okay, some propose utility, but generally most of what they're selling is community. It takes like you gotta unlearn, you have to unfuck your brain to understand what that looks like. Okay, like think about what influencer kind of marketing and that whole like the influencer economy on legacy media. What has that done is like, okay, so you have certain people where it's like about celebrity, but generally speaking, the larger, like the 99%, what it looks like is somebody finds a niche that they're good at and they become a public representative of that niche and they begin to earn money from it and they build a community around them. There's somebody who only makes, uh, you know, this is a good example. I used to work at a jazz club in New York, and one of the performers that came every week was this guy from Harlem, but he literally dressed like like his whole shtick was like they're a 1920s band, okay, which is fine. But every time they performed, the club would get swarmed by like 100 people, all dressed like they're from the 1920s. Why? Because that's like a subculture in New York where people dress like they're from the 1920s. It's not my thing, but somebody's out there making the dresses. Somebody's out there tailoring the suits, and they have found their niche. And somebody's on YouTube who makes videos about a very, very niche topic, but they have a community and they're able to make a living from it. Okay. The reason I got into BSV at all was because I observed this happening very early on. Um, and I was like, oh, like, can Bitcoin facilitate this kind of interaction or this kind of business or this kind of way of making a living? Because this is way better than a top down pyramidal structure like I was seeing in the music business. In a city like New York, and this is true for a lot of places, but city like New York, because it's so big and there's so many people, it's inevitable that if there's a million people who are trying to make it in music in New York City, there's going to be like 500 subcultures that cater to different um, groups in that 1 million. So you don't want a million fish trying to get to the same scrap of food. You want 500 groups of fish that are in their own little circle, right? Like that's the kind of thing that is inherent in Bitcoin. Um, so it's not about like, oh, I made $5,000 because we made a PowerPoint. That's not it. The idea is that we propose an idea into the market, and the market looks at your idea, and you may not like the criteria by which they judge it, but they judge it, and if they deem it worthy, they can invest in it. And you don't need to go to somebody with a lot of money because now somebody with $5 can invest in it, right? Like this is how you solve problems. If you want to solve problems, you believe in people's sovereignty. You believe in people's ability to solve the problems around them, okay? And you give them a tool like a blockchain that allows them to accomplish their goals. Like, I mean, I can't really, I don't have any more insight on it. I mean, you have to put yourself into that mindset, okay? Like, I have no interest in, like, my let's just take my goal as a musician. Okay, like what is my goal as a musician? Well, my goal is not really to uh, get on the radio or do that shit. Okay, would be fine, would be cool. It's happened before, but I don't. That's not what I'm doing it for. I do it so that I can get 1,000 people or who like what I'm doing, and they all want to pay me $5 a month, and that way I could make music forever. You know, it's like really that simple. I don't know what if you just look at the trend of everything, that is where things are going. I mean, like to me, the most advanced legacy business is Patreon because Patreon enables anybody to get a community to pay them for their work. Uh, why don't we have a BSV Patreon? Well, I mean, we don't because nobody would use it. But like you get the point. Like a token on BSV, a token on Relay, a token on any chain is the same thing as a Patreon subscription.
Yep. So
Well, kind of. A subscription keeps paying.
Right. So when we started Geist, maybe I can talk about the development here. So when we started Geist, like the initial thing was like, all right, let's try just tokenizing music, right? Like let's say maybe tokenizing music is the futuristic thing we're trying to do. But that was like pretty basic. We put some music on chain and you sell it for $1, which is great, cool. Anybody can do that. But that wasn't very interesting to me. So what we tried next was, what if you get a token and as long as you hold that token, we can airdrop you music. This creates, I think, a better relationship. It's a little closer to that like DAO kind of thing, where it's like, all right, now if somebody is just all they're doing is like buying into the club. They're buying into the pre-seed, right? And as long as they hold that token, they're going to receive product. And the beauty being that now that you've received this product for free, it's up to you what you want to do with it, right? And even with that simple model, we started seeing interesting interactions. For example, I never in my mind even considered that somebody would buy more than one token. It just didn't even occur to me. But people did that. They held like, 10 tokens so that when we airdropped music, they got 10 copies of music. And that's completely new. That's completely new. Like me, I used to DJ with vinyl a lot. So sometimes I would buy 2 copies of a vinyl because, that's just how you do it. But rarely would I ever have 10 MP3s of the same piece of music or 10 vinyls or 10 CDs. I mean, nobody does that because there's no point to doing that. But in the on-chain world, there is a point to doing that because now suddenly you are Amoeba Records, you are Universal Music Group, you have 10 copies of the music. It's up to you how you distribute them. So that was really an interesting and novel thing, and it really taught me a lot to see this happen. Over time, I think, we did the best we could. And I mean, that sounds like I'm like sad or something. Like, I think we did a pretty cool job. I'm very happy. We have a sick catalog. But since Relay, is non-existent now and things in BSV are what they are, I decided to start to work on the next iteration of Geist. And the idea is that, so what I kind of thought of a long time ago was, for me, again, going back to like how I was interested in tokenizing the contracts that have the royalty splits. I just thought, like, okay, here's a chain where you can actually automate revenue splitting, which nobody has ever done. There is literally no revenue splitting happening anywhere on the internet, as far as I can tell. What you have now on the other chains is like points and all this other stuff going on, but nobody has really tried revenue splitting. Mostly because none of the layer ones can scale to do it, I think, without like huge amounts of revenue or something.
I think we might have an objection from Hooligan on the stage,
That's right.
who might
Yeah, we
also be one of
definitely
those
got
10
revenue
token holders.
splitting going on, but yeah, it's because of BSV. BSV makes it possible. You can continue though.
Okay.
Amen.
So I was like, I wanted to automate revenue splitting using smart contracting, and we accomplished this. We accomplished this with run tokens. I was working with Steven Zeiler. I don't know if you guys know who that is. He's a bit of a mysterious figure. But
from the Boost Pow team, right?
Yes,
with Daniel Krawietz.
That's right. That's another war story I'd love to talk about. Because that's where I learned how to code. Anyways, but so I worked with Steven, and we created a thing that could do revenue splitting. Like if you held a run token, we could deposit BSV into an address, and it would automatically split to every holder of that token. But by the time we did it, everything in BSV started to kind of go to shit. And people stopped using run tokens, and inscriptions came out. So it was kind of not really utilized to its fullest. So that was like 2 years ago. I guess more like maybe a year. When Club Relay came out last year, it's been a long time.
No, it was 2 years ago.
Okay. So yeah, it was around that time that we figured this out, and it just didn't. We weren't able to like fully implement it. But the idea stuck with me, and I've only like this is like my contribution, to the economy, is to develop a system for revenue splitting. So to me, with that, like with revenue splitting as the goal, my understanding of what Geist was really shifted because, again, I was coming from this legacy world where, like, to me, a record label is like a museum. It's like curated. It's very tasteful. It's like trying to sell a certain thing, like an idea or a aesthetic. But I realized that in the on-chain economy, that doesn't really. It's not like that can exist, but certainly not if you're the first person to do it. That shouldn't really be your goal. Instead, the goal should be to make it like an open platform where anybody can release music and earn and all that, right? Because at this point, I think the best thing you can do, the best kind of business you can make, is one that allows other people to earn. It allows other people to be businessmen, in the same way that Patreon is a business that allows other people to be entrepreneurial, right? So, yeah. So that was kind of the. I knew that the goal was to make Geist this like open thing, and so my goal now, which I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's been in the works for a while, is to allow is to, we have a website, geist.live, and I want to turn that website into a marketplace. I want to turn it into something that's kind of like Etsy. I think Etsy is a good model, because I just have a lot of friends that are like cool artists, and I want to give them a place where they can sell their stuff, and tokenize it for probably the first time. And I want revenue splitting to be an integral part of this platform, because with Etsy, for example, right before, this is not really that related, but right before the Russia invasion of Ukraine, I bought a beautiful harp from a guy in Moscow through his Etsy. He made it by hand. And I bought it, and I was the last person to ever buy it because Etsy shut his store down just because he's from Moscow. And I bet they took a lot of his money too. So I don't like that. The marketplace that I built, Babel Markets, that application it has no backend, which is also it's why it makes it even funnier that somebody called me a scammer about it, because it has no I am storing no. I am basically doing like it's an application where I, as the developer, do nothing, because the entire backend is just the blockchain. There's no storing of anybody's data. It's not storing anything. So there's no like. It's just a front end interface for blockchain interaction. I think with Geist, probably have to have a back end to do more interesting stuff like history, transaction history and stuff. But the point is that like you can build a front end only type app on blockchain, um, which is like a paradigm that I don't think that few are trying. Like I don't need Zach to do that. Zach is like a lifelong developer, right? Zach is a lifelong engineer. We need Zach to build something that city council wants to use, right? But you need me to build retarded front end only applications. So yeah, so the goal with Geist, for those who are interested, is that I want to make it an art based marketplace, and I want to try tokenizing real world assets, like specifically pieces of art. We'll see how that goes, but like the idea being that you can, the same kind of digital art token can exist next to the real world art token, and it has to have revenue sharing, so that if you buy from somebody's shop, you're now in their club, you're in their community. And maybe the shop owners are part of the Geist community. So there's like many different ways of supporting each other, and cooperating with each other. And that's kind of what I envision the future of it to be. That's how I see it. I think that's better than a legacy music label. But the best part is that I can also sell music there, right? I can sell Geist music, which is music that is distributed by our entity, but then those artists can also go and sell their own music. I can sell my Pokemon cards. I can sell my sketches. I can sell my recipes, stuff like this. Back in the day, back when Palco and Relay were in their prime, there's a developer named Elvis who made a just beautiful collection of NFTs that were recipes from his mom. And you bought the NFT, and you could go on his website and actually get the recipe. Like holding the token would unlock the recipe for you, and it would unlock a video of his mom. showing you how to make the food. You know, like no other chain is doing that. Nobody's doing that. Only on BSV. And we continue to have a house divided when you have like shit like this, that goes uncelebrated.
Amen, brother. We've got another comment from Jimmy. Says probably the best, most truthful Coin Geek show I've heard or listened to. Well done for letting guests speak. So sounds like it's resonating, Sharish.
I do appreciate you guys let me talk for a long time.
No, for sure. It's a lot of stuff that, like Zach said, was really worth listening to, and I might even have to go back and listen again, which I rarely do. But like I've said before, we've got some clips, probably highlight moments coming out from this space, especially. So, yeah. Just want to give again a big thanks to Sharish. I'm not trying to shut this space down, but I want to let anybody know who wants to go ahead and join the conversation. The opportunity is now. We've got Mr. Hooligan from Hooligan Culture, of course, already up on stage as our first surprise guest. Also used to be referred to as the P. Diddy of Geist, but I think they got to figure out a better title for him now. But I know Hooligan was active, a big supporter, and what you were doing with the music stuff on BSV. And so, really, it's been awesome to watch your journey, Sharish, as a developer with the, Dark to Light project was obviously a really cool collaboration, you and Alex. Actually, I wanted to do something fun. I have my deck here right in front of me, and I was flipping through some of the cards, and maybe just to kind of give people a glimpse of the type of questions that you might find in the game. I was like gonna just pull one out randomly, but then some good ones stuck out. I'm like, oh, this one's got to be the one. Do people perceive you as negative even though you think you are not? So I'm not really asking anybody this. I'm just reading the question. You can feel free to reflect on it, or maybe we can tackle any of these questions. But I'm just going to read like three or four.
Alex, you
Go ahead.
You can scan the
Yeah,
QR code on the card and look at
that's
the
right.
global data.
Oh, snap. I haven't even done that
Yeah,
yet. That's awesome. I'm a little afraid to do it now with the phones I'm using to run the space. But that is a good idea. I think maybe I'll do it in the after party space.
Alex worried about rugging himself.
Yeah. This next one's easy. Are politicians liars? Yes, obviously. But I definitely want to see what the answers are on chain. So that's one of the most interesting things that maybe we should talk a little bit about, because I don't think we got into much in this conversation, is like, how you're using blockchain on Dark to Light. Of course, we pinned something from Dark to Light. I'll get something else up there for you guys to check it out. Can a machine be conscious? Ooh, that's a good one. Can a machine be conscious? And then this last one I'll read for now is, do you feel like you have a healthy work-life balance? You guys know that's one of the most important things we like to emphasize in the last 5 minutes of this show as we go into the weekend. But yeah, as we come into the second hour or closing of the second hour of the show, again, whoever wants to come up and speak their mind, come on, make it PC and family friendly, I guess, to the best of your abilities. And maybe
While
not
we're waiting
PC
for
is
them
not
to
the
come
best word,
up,
but
Alex, I
yeah.
know you probably hate me for doing this because I do it live on Spaces instead of after this thing closes. But I got to get the ideas out sometimes while I fresh my head. I think we should find one of these sponsors to put up something like relatively small, $20 a week, something like that. And for our second giveaway, instead of best comment, let's encourage people to mint an ordinal. Like go to onesat.market, mint something, and let's give the prize to whichever ordinal we like best that was minted in the week. Like let's encourage people to use the shit. I don't give a damn if you mint like a meme token, right? And it's a BSV 20 or 21. It's funny and topical, or you like put some real time and effort into art and like you're teasing a collection, or it's just a one of one, or even like you found somebody else's meme on Twitter and you thought it was stupid funny and it was like, worth it to post, just make sure you give the original artist credit, and that way we may be able to like encourage people to use this stuff a little bit more using our platform.
Absolutely, 100%. Great idea, Zach. Let's definitely do that. I will figure out how to make that easiest, and we will encourage people to do that. So yeah, this is fun. I love this stuff. We're cooking live. Sharish has been cooking for like an hour and 45 minutes, and it's time to hear some feedback from some of the other people. But really, it's been a true pleasure, Sharish. I appreciate all of your work, and so let's check in with Hooligan first, since he was first up on stage. See if he wants to chime in with any thoughts on just in general the conversation. But of course, Hooligan Culture, everybody should check that out. They've got a collaboration with Gorilla Pool going on, the Pooligan t-shirts. They've got all sorts of collaborations. If you're interested in collaborating with Hooligan, hit him up, because he is the go-to apparel company of BSV that has the royalty payouts, and it's Ponzi tees. Really, really cool scheme or scam, depending on how you want to look at it.
Yeah, no, I want to say I definitely agree with a lot of stuff you guys have been speaking about today, especially towards the end there, Sharish talking about splitting revenue, right? I mean, I think some of you that are aware about Hooligan Culture, we do that revenue split, but we call it a customer rewards for some not so obvious reasons, trying to avoid the big G there. And I think Zach, you hit on something too. Like, there's a lot of us still here in the same space. We're really familiar with each other, but I'm trying to do something that can be seen by others in other communities, just out in the normal world too, right? I've done a lot of collaborations in the past couple of weeks here with Gorilla Pool, doing the Gorilla Pool tees, the S-Crypt Hacker hoodies, giving S-Crypt Hacker hoodie winners a special version of the S-Crypt Hacker hoodie that is embedded with ordinals and has a special Easter egg feature into it that I'm sure the winners are smart enough to figure out what that Easter egg is and do some really cool stuff with it as well. S-Crypt Coder hoodies. I'm trying to think. I mean, I've done a bunch of collaborations lately, and I just want to emphasize, Hooligan isn't just about violence. It's about being a passionate supporter of a community, and you're either an ultra or you're a casual. And the ultras collections that I've made are for those that are actually building something out. And it's very important to me that revenue immediately gets directed to these people that are building in the space. And when you wear these sorts of things out in public, I mean, you should be having conversations like, what is that? You can have a conversation about what it is and how it's blockchain enabled, and have a whole conversation that way. Or you can just tell them to simply buy the shirt, right? And you'll be a beneficiary of these revenues getting split. And I think that's really the thing. You have to do something cool and creative that's not in your face blockchain, but gets people talking, so you can really have a conversation across other communities, and then they try to figure out, well, how is this being done, right? Because I think what you mentioned about the revenue splitting, Sharish, yeah, it cannot be done on a lot of layer ones, especially at a very large scale. So yeah, I've also released a lot of really cool things. With the Euro competition going on right now, the Copa America, I've released about 50 country flags across the two tournaments. Yes, even Panama. So hope you guys check that out. And if you are a passionate ultra of your own nation, hopefully we've got your flag there that you can support it. And if not, let me know. Just the other day, somebody asked for a Vatican flag, and I mocked up a Vatican flag holding a rosary, and I may be releasing that as well soon. So always down to collaborate, but yeah, I mean, we really need to big up the developers in this space. And the negativity that we talked about at the beginning of the space, I mean, we cannot be being negative about the people that are here willingly and building in the space. If you haven't built a damn thing, you don't really have a very strong say in calling people scammers when a lot of people are trying to figure it out along the way. They're not doing it with malicious intentions, most of these people. And if we continue to discourage developers in this space, they'll simply go away. And I don't think that's positive for us. So we just need to continue supporting everybody that's here, and making friends with new people. Do something like local events. The being part of the Florida Citadel has been really fun for me. Uh, Made a few friends across there, and I don't get out as much as I should, or I have a lot of FOMO from the years prior that I knew about it that I wasn't attending regularly, right? But everyone should be creating their own version of the Citadel in a certain way. You don't, and I'll tell you, most of the time we're not actually nerding out about blockchain, but I will say it does take up about 30-40% of the time. But yeah, I mean, we need to just encourage community development and talking to other people. So yeah.
And well, I agree with a lot of what you said. I want to make sure that we don't leave out the users of the apps that are built, right? Like builders are important, and without builders, myself included, there's not going to be this stuff to use. But the users are just as important, and finding things that you can support is one part of being a community, right? So become if you're not in a position to build something, become a champion for something else that you like.
Yeah, actually, my perspective is that builders are like the bottom of the totem pole. Like musicians, for example, like today we have a culture of elevating people as like celebrities. So when people think about a musician, they think about like top of the totem pole, like influential people. But the reality is that for most of history, if you were a bard, you were a clown, and you're a performer. A performer is like the dreg of society. Okay, that's why you have like bohemian culture, and you have grungy kids in Brooklyn, and scenes and punk and all that kind of stuff. It all comes from the reality of the actual thing being in the low part of society. And I think builders are the same, right? Like, um, think about how many people built. There's like a story. I don't know if it's real, but like all the people that worked on the Taj Mahal. It's like thousands and thousands of builders, and then the emperor supposedly cut all their hands off after they finished. And why? Because builders are not respected. Um, I think you can be respected and still be kind of like bottom of the totem pole in a way, because think about this. I used to work in construction, and a lot of the people that I would work with, these were more talented uh, builders than artists or sculptors, because I also, I went to a very prominent university that uh, has a lot of artistic type people. And I know that like the people that I worked with in construction could build a better chair, for example, than some art student, you know. But the person who builds a chair and works in construction, they're just building a chair, and that chair sells for $50 or $25. But the art student builds a shit chair, and that sells for $500 or becomes a an art object. It takes on a new meaning, takes on more value, more perceived value. So the reality of building has always been that you are actually like the pleb, you're the peon, you're the blue collar, you're the salt of the earth. And I think like that paradigm is a good paradigm. Like, and it's codified and incentivized and rewards all sides in the blockchain economy. Because, you know, I mean, like when we're talking about like anybody can become a pre-seed investor now for an idea with your $5. Like you're you went from being a nobody to like better than a VC, right? You went from nobody to better than a Wharton business degree, uh, living in a New York Manhattan high rise. Like you're better than that person now, or you're ahead of them in some regard, you know. So yeah, we never should forget that the user, customer, uh, influencer, shiller, meme lord, like these people are really like, I don't know how to word it, but it's not like the
veterans.
but that like they are the real economy. And the builder, like, I mean, generally, like people should just stop being disrespectful to each other, generally speaking, no matter what you do. uh, you know, it's not like you got to put builders on a pedestal or anything like that. You just got to stop being a piece of shit, you know.
Just be good to each other.
Yeah, but that's a very cursed statement. So don't, you know, whatever you do,
Yeah.
reject everything that statement means, because that's a totally cursed bullshit statement that doesn't have any basis in reality.
Never give up.
Never give up. All right. If you guys say so. Welcome the Bitcoin broadcast hyper Bitcoiner to the stage. Welcome Andreas, and welcome Jimmy. I don't see any hands going up, but if anybody has something to chime in with, I've got a couple of questions that I still want to ask Shirish, or at least one, and then I've got one from my DMs. That's a really good one. So, okay, hands are going up.
Yeah,
Jimmy was on
let me
stage.
just real quick. I want to thank Andreas, legend Andreas. We got to hear from Andreas, because so Andreas, you know, in his name, he's got this coin called Kendu, right? And Andreas very graciously reached out to me early on and was shilling me Kendu. And I was like a little hesitant, you know, because I still have a lot of ego, you know, and like I still think I'm right a lot of the time. But I was talking to Andres, and it sounded cool, and I joined the Kendu Telegram chat. Okay, dude, this chat literally changed my perspective on everything, because I don't know how many people there were in that chat. Let's say like 500 people. Every single person in that chat had the most relentless, euphoric perspective on this coin that doesn't promise anything. Zero ideology, zero political bent, zero thought. Like,
It's not even that good of a name. It's just a dog.
which is, again, that's like what I thought. I was like, oh, what the fuck is this? You know, like I thought that there is no way, you know, like this is not Bitcoin Satoshi vision, you know. But I bought some Kendu, and Andres, we made it, didn't we? We fucking made it, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Let's fucking go.
I want to give up my space. I want to give up my space to Andreas. I want to let Andreas speak first before me, and I'll tell you why. My story is exactly the same as Shirish's, except I didn't buy Kendu. I was like, fuck everything apart from BSV. I'm not buying Kendu. So, you know, I'll speak after Andreas. Give it away, Andreas. Shill Kendu if you want. Whatever you want, my friend.
Hey, Jimmy, thank you, Jimmy. I'll be quick. And yeah, I just wanted to add Shirish. And also, you forgot to say no utility too. But now we're hinted that there's some utility coming. So it just shows the power of community comes first, and then like utility can come later. But yeah, it's been a while since I've been in this space. You know, what's up with the blockchain space, you know, where we share news and stuff. I just had some news just wanted to share. Um, so Kendu is now on 15 exchanges, all listed organically. I threw up in the nest. CoinMarketCap has written an article saying that Kendu is going to be a top 4 altcoin this cycle, and they bumped us up from calling us a meme coin. We're now considered an altcoin, which is pretty massive. And then also our dev, Lashley, our dev, Kendu Miyazaki, he's now a trans. He transitioned, so he's now a trans. And so that's what's up in the blockchain space and the Ethereum side. And take it away, Jimmy.
So yeah, there's some of us who believe in the $5 conspiracy that BSV is going to go down to $5. So not financial advice, but some people might want to dump their BSV and buy Kendu, so I can buy more BSV at $5. Thank you. I was just going to say, I think Zach and Alex, you guys should be getting paid $10,000 a week each to, sorry, $10,000 a week between you, sorry, to be doing this show, but you should be doing it on video, TV, maybe a space at the same time. You might think $10,000 a week is a lot, I don't know, but I'll tell you how it gets done. Calvin Air fires everybody at CoinGeek apart from Rebecca, the old guy who does the documentaries in YouTube, and he pays $1 million a week to you two guys, and you guys give away $990,000 worth of prizes. Also, I'd like to say to Calvin, fire everybody at the ass and just make Shiris some sort of dictator, coder lord or something. And yeah, that's it. That's my comments. Thank you, guys.
Wait, there's more than 4 people at CoinGeek? That's ridiculous.
All right, let Jordan Atkins keep his job.
I support this request for sponsorship. I would really like $1 million a week, and it would be super fun to give away $990,000 a week. I'm all for working towards this goal.
My address is alex.sats. You can send payments there. But don't send BSV there because it will get lost. Anyway, okay. This has been really fun, you guys. I do have a good technical question from a developer who I won't name because I'm not sure if they want. But this is for Shirish. They say, how do you feel about the following statement? The necessary move to SPV-based systems due to the blockchain growing faster than on other chains creates an additional obstacle. In addition to having to learn to work with the UTXO model, that is an additional barrier to onboarding developers that other chains don't have.
Yeah, so I have a real answer and I have the actual answer. The actual answer is that it doesn't fucking matter at all. No obstacle matters because BTC, the fees are like $100 sometimes, and yet people will still send $105. Okay, we made Dark to Light, and in Dark to Light, you earn 1/10 of a cent every time you vote on a question. We had somebody right away. I've never seen them before. Right away, they built a bot to just spam creating accounts and voting on questions. And they did all of this just to earn like 2 cents every time. Okay? They ran a bot. I talked to them. I reached out and I tried to figure out all the things they did so I could fucking fix it. But they did all this shit. They did like a ton of effort just to make 5 cents, every 3 days or some shit. Like, people will do anything if they feel incentivized to do so. I mean, think about how many things in your life, blockchain or not, where you see people expending effort to do something when they could be doing something else, right? So I don't think it's an obstacle. My real answer is that, yeah, the BSV economy, the economics in BSV are really messed up. The incentives are not aligned as they should be, because you have even outside of narratives. I think narratives are what have gotten us here, but like there's okay, let's just say that like the dominant narrative is enterprise adoption. Okay, what does it take to have enterprise adoption? It takes enterprise level building to reach enterprise adoption, but the coin keeps going down. So if you try to build something enterprise level, something that takes you 5 years for the product to mature, you are literally stabbing yourself every day that you're doing it. And your opportunity cost is like infinite. So, regardless of whether it's SPV or Terranode, or if you are stuck using the Gorilla Pool API and there's no other miner providing an API and you can't run a node because it's too expensive, like there are all of these things where because number go up is not on the menu, like all these other things become obstacles. Because it's like, if you like, okay, when I built this this website that some call a scam, right? When I built that, which took me like 5 hours with GPT, and it's purely front end, no database, no hosting cost, whatever. The fact that this website made me like 3 BSV, to me, this is a miracle, because the way I look at it is that I have now captured 3/21 millionths of the entire economy. So it's like I'm like I've basically, like, if Bitcoin is America, like if BSV, the entire economy is like America, then I've like founded a new city. Okay, that's how I look at it. So even making 3 BSV, which is like $100, whatever, that the dollar cost doesn't matter. I've earned 3 Bitcoins. That's huge, right? But for most people who are not, in my position, um, and they need to make a living, and they've dedicated their life and their time here, they need to make enterprise thing, right? They can't make retard thing, because nobody, first off, they get like backlash, and secondly, because even if you built the ultimate pump thing on BSV, like, I don't know, it may not be used. Like if you built the ultimate pump thing on BTC, at least some people will use it. At least you'll get some value from doing so. But if you build anything in BSV, it's not really clear that you'll make anything. So, and again, for most people, if you're going to spend hundreds of hours on something, making 3 BSV is not going to cut it. Okay, so that's why I think the incentives are all screwed up here. Like, I actually think that the way BSV grows properly is more. It's like you don't start with the biggest artist in the world. Like you don't start with, like, in order for Taylor Swift to be a billionaire today, you need 100 years of blood, sweat, and tears from millions of musicians to create that structure that allows for a super celebrity or a Michael Jackson or something like that, you know? So what you need now is more people that get like 100 users or 50 users or 10 users. You need like thousands of that, is my personal perspective. So like when you think about it that way, like SPV, it's like, who cares about SPV? What is that? Who cares about all these obstacles? Those obstacles get crossed when everyone that's listening to this chat gets rich and makes 1,000 Bitcoins.
Hey, I just pinned it to the top. This Happy Valley is building a standalone arcade cabinet thing that was posted from Go Gala Games. Is that the thing you're working on?
Yeah, that's right.
Wow, that looks pretty cool. Interesting. Okay, I have a quick question. You posted some of you have never fallen out of a coconut tree, and it shows. Have you really fallen out of a coconut tree?
Yeah, well, I mean, do you get that joke? You know what I'm talking about?
Nope. It's over my head.
Okay, so that comes from our vice president, Kamala Harris, who, by the way, I've met Kamala Harris. Just a fun fact for you guys. I engineered one of her.
Weird flex, but
No,
okay.
it's a big one because.
I'm just
By the
kidding.
way, I will tell you. So just as a tangent, I engineered her speech at the Intercontinental Hotel in downtown LA, and so I worked with the White House, and I can tell you that the White House bureaucracy is insane. Not that if you guys didn't already know that. Anyways, but so Kamala Harris, she was speaking somewhere, and she said, uh, I don't know who the fuck knows what she was talking about, but she said, "Did you fall out of a coconut tree?" So that's referencing. But I will tell you that my family home in Calcutta, uh, there's no coconut trees, obviously, but there are mango trees. So I spent a lot of my childhood cutting mangoes down from these trees, and sometimes you fall out.
I've just got quick. Remember, I'm Nice Jimmy again today. That's 2 weeks in a row. Nice Jimmy. This is a message for Packard. I'd just like to say thanks for listening, Packard, and buy Gala Chain. Thank you.
All right, guys. On that note, I think it's almost time to move this party to the after party. And then after that, it's the after party in the hotel lobby or wherever you kids hang out. It'd be cool if we hung out on chain. Soon we're going to figure out how to migrate over from Web 2 to Web 3 in more ways than one, and then Web 4. And now we've got the big dogs coming through. So yeah, if anybody wants to come up at this last minute, we usually don't go this long, but it's been an amazing conversation with Sharish. And we obviously look forward to having you back at any time that you want, Sharish. You are welcome to hop on stage early and skip the line. That is one privilege that'll follow you throughout the rest of your life, kind of like presidents get Secret Service forever. Um, benefits. So we are all friends here. Happy Friday to everyone. It has been a real honor. We don't get paid $10,000 a week to do this show, but we do enjoy it, and we hope that you guys enjoy it as much as us. So again, shout out to Ether Beast, who won the Champions Trading Card Game Pack giveaway at 4:20 p.m. today. That could be you next week. So make sure to hit the set reminder for next week. We've got none other than Ryan Wold. We mentioned the Script Hackathon. Well, we're going to finally have the winner himself, Mr. Ryan Wold, a Bitcoin developer who created the Gassed Up app. That was the winner, as far as I remember. Hopefully, I'm not mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that was the winning project, a gas pump simulator that demonstrates how we can optimize cost, trust, and customer experience at the pump with the Bitcoin smart contract. Pretty cool. We've been trying to lock Ryan down as a guest, so next week it's going down. Set your reminders. It's in the nest. And yeah, Sharish is working on Gala Chain now, apparently. So you probably want to just keep an eye on what he is up to, as he is somebody who's always on the bleeding edge. And if that's you, most of us in BSV are interested in that bleeding edge, then I would pay attention. Study Sharish.
Well,
So
if I
yeah.
may, I just let me. I just want to say, like, people are like following me. Please don't follow me because I'm actually gonna try to remove like all crypto or most crypto stuff from this like personal account. Like this is more like where I'm going to be, doing art stuff and all that. You can, if you want to, if you're actually interested in like seeing new stuff, like new developments, please follow at World Builder, one word _US. That is my studio with my partner Connor. Some of you may know Connor. Or follow the Geist account. Like I'm not going to really be posting about development on this account. I'm trying to remove my myself from these things and just kind of build freely. And I do want to talk a little bit about Dark to Light because I really think there is. I'll be quick about it, but one of the there's so we've talked a lot about, I think, over the years, like what kind of business can use BSV and like be successful and all that. And there's obviously many layers to that conversation, but I want to talk about Dark to Light because I think there's like we've really been able to sculpt the application for to do this well. So the idea is that like you can go on the website, try it out, but the point is that like there is a right now it's very BSV specific. So even like the questions people are posting are all very BSV specific and all that. I'm trying to push for the for us to accept other cryptocurrencies as payment, which would just be a net benefit. I mean, it would really, make the company thrive, right? Potentially. But the idea is that, like, if you haven't been on the website, there's a physical card game, which is its own thing, and then there is this online platform that is like where people are asking questions and like earning micropayments on the votes and stuff. And like the what can happen with that eventually, and where I'd like to take it, is that you're accumulating data, you're accumulating people's opinions on questions, and this can be publicly available data through something like a micropayments API, where somebody could be like, let's say CoinGeek asks a question of like, do you listen to the CoinGeek weekly live space? Do you think Alex is a better host than Zach? Some shit like that, right? So you ask a question like that, you start to accumulate data, and then that data can be pulled from an API and potentially useful. So Hooligan could be like, have you purchased this particular shirt? That question can lead to another question. Do you like it in black or red? And then do you get a small? Do you get a medium, etc., right? And you end up with like potentially useful data. You end up with trees of data that can be useful for people, and that can be available through a micropayments API. And it's kind of an example of like where BSV can be either upfront, where it's like obvious you're using BSV, but it could also be built in a way where the blockchain stuff is kind of in the background, and you don't really even know that you're using it. So I just wanted to put that out there. I think Dark to Light is a really cool product that I am hoping to see it mature, whether I'm developing it or somebody else maybe comes along later. So, yeah, that's that. Definitely check it out. I think it's pretty cool, and I'm working on a bunch of these like social features, so you can like have comments and like talk to people and stuff like that. And so there's like more things to do while you're playing it. And I think after 2 hours of cooking, that's my normie shilling statement.
Awesome, man. love to hear it. Love to hear it. Kudos to you. Shout out for all the work that you're doing. I am going to keep an eye. Don't follow Sharish, though. Don't follow me. You can follow Zach, I guess, even though he's no longer here on the space due to connection issues. But we'll see if he jumps back before we wrap things up here. Probably not, because it is about that time. So going around one more time, I think it's just Mr. Hooligan on stage with us. Did you want to get any closing thoughts
Yeah,
or final words in?
yeah, I mentioned all of the collaborations that I've done as well. I forgot my favorite one. I launched Scammer Cartel t-shirts as well. So Viva la Scammer Cartel. If you don't understand, I don't have time to explain it to you.
Awesome. So yeah, thanks again, Hooligan and Sharish. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap things up here?
Yeah, I would encourage anybody here who didn't listen to the beginning of the space to please take a listen, and then block me.
Love it. I'm going to close this out with the Geist Records remix of the Free Knots song, The Agora, which was dropped exclusively to Lockers, I think. Is that how we released that, Sharish? A couple of years ago, I think it's been now. So a very rare track. You probably can't find it anywhere on the internet. Good luck even finding it on the blockchain, but I'm pretty sure it's on the blockchain somewhere. But we're going to take it away with that. And I think on that note, in the words of our friend Zach Wins, go out and do some good in the world, y'all. Have a great weekend. Touch grass. Hug someone you love. We'll see you next week. Do some good. Peace.
Thanks.
We need the Agora. Fucking Agora. Politics is rigged, you can't ignore that. Computerized humanity. We all robots programmed systematically. Hack the system and create total anarchy. And disconnect from that self-absorbed vanity. Y'all ain't worried about the dozen elitists who deceive us. Y'all trust the leaders, so they green is what they feed us. Why they move their plans further? Forget genocide and mass murder. We more concerned with Justin Bieber eating hamburgers. Silent weapons for quiet wars. Silent weapons for quiet wars, riots form, violence forms. Also they can silence yours. Defiance of tyrants, pious, hybrid wars. What we witnessing now is just the mildest form. One time for my people on the right track. No cap, we need you to all fight back. Óyeme, no tenemos mucho tiempo. Vamos a prosperar sin gobierno. Ahora, we need the Agora.
We're so up. Keep on stacking in Bitcoin.
Ahora, we need the Agora. Pa' que no joda. Pa' que no joda. Live free, nah, they can't control that. We need the Agora. Pa' que no joda. Pa' que no joda. Politics is rigged, you can't ignore that. To the Agora's nexus. We need the whole community connected. We're the alternative collective. Self-sufficient and effective. On the road to effective. Self-sufficient and effective. Self-sufficient and effective.